1, 2, 3, 4.
Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling bling, chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling bling, chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now.
What up, y'all? It's Babylon 5 Podcast. It's your boy, Jermaine event. I don't know if you guys are missing it. If niggas is like, oh, we was just getting used to you posting videos on YouTube. I'm not sure what's going on with my external hard drive. Sometimes it appears, sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, I'm not able to do video. Well, I don't know. I got a lot of space here, but it won't. OBS is like just assuming it's going to be a large-ass file, I would imagine. So it's like not allowing me to record the video in the way that I'd like to. I could do it like I was doing previously with my iPhone, but then I'd have to like, I just don't feel like it. I was killing so many birds with one stone with OBS and the slideshows. I'm just not willing to go back to what it was. There's so much of my time, but here we are. Episode 171, ladies and gentlemen, we're calling this bad boy Takeover. Yeah, they're taking over one weight class at a time. They're taking over. We're going to talk about the situation at light heavyweight. A new champion will be crowned in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, we will talk about the situation at light heavyweight. We'll also talk about, you guys may know this fighter. His name's Conor McGregor. We're going to talk about my man Conor McGregor. So much to talk about my man Conor McGregor. You know, I try not to talk about, I try to stick to predictions on fights and reactions to fights more so than gossip. I don't like to just talk about gossip, but, you know, Conor McGregor is our LeBron James. He's the person you talk about every day, even when this person is not fighting. You know, you look on these headlines and it's always, oh, Conor's on this yacht during his recovery from his last fight. Like, they always include that he got injured in his last fight just to kind of make it seem like there's a reason for why they're posting about Conor, but there's absolutely no reason to every day. Well, here he is partying in Italy. Now here he is hanging out on a yacht over here doing this shit. Fucking rape allegations. Pardon me. It's like, oh, somebody got assaulted on that yacht. A few allegations every time. We're going to talk about our boy Conor. And then we're going to talk about this upcoming card here. UFC Fight Night, Kevin Holland versus Stephen Thompson. Those gentlemen just sat down for a podcast, Real Eyes Recognized podcast. I believe Kevin Holland is a host of that podcast, but they spoke with Kevin Holland. They spoke with Stephen Thompson. Pardon me. And that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool if fighters can do that. It's pretty interesting because right before at the Madison Square Garden card, you got Kevin Holland about to fight Kamaru Usman. And like now he's doing a cool ass podcast where he's talking to his upcoming opponent, Stephen Thompson, and they're just giving each other praise, finding out the connections between there's certain coaches that train under his coach and yada, yada, yada. just giving praise to each other just for being dope individuals. Pretty interesting, but it's funny the contrast. Every fucking cool Kevin Holland moment will turn into him going at Israel Adesanya when Izzy's there. We're in the Akutsuki. I never understood how to pronounce that shit. But the shit from Naruto. We're in that shirt and he's going at Izzy, talking about he's just this close to getting into, like, man, I wanted y'all to be like the cool black dudes, you know what I'm saying? But then that happened, and then, like, he was trying to fight Kamaru there, I think kind of because those two are cool, like Izzy and Kamaru. It'll be like for every cool ass moment, it's like, damn, bro, don't do it. Just don't do that. Like, just like avoid that situation. Like, it'd be so cool. But I mean, that's what this is. This is sports. This is competition. Punching each other in the fucking face. This is fighting. So, unfortunately, you're gonna have those moments with a lot of my favorite fighters. I wish all of my favorite fighters could get along, even in the same weight class. Like, what if Hamzat and Colby trained together rather than fight? They're like, we can train together. We'll just make each other better. Like how Hamzat was like, nah, I'm not trying to fight Robert Whittaker. I'm trying to train with that dude. Why don't they do that with Colby? Say that with Colby. Like, nah, I ain't trying to fight Colby. I'm just trying to train with that nigga. That's what y'all could do. And what y'all also could do is follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Babylon5Pod. If you guys would like to email this podcast for whatever reason, head on over to Babylon5podcast@gmail.com. If you guys would like to hit that like button anywhere that you're listening to this podcast, I'd appreciate it so much. And I don't know if you guys are paying attention. I streamed on Twitch. Streamed on Twitch, I think on Thanksgiving. Yeah, I did a Thanksgiving stream. It was Civilization. So if you a nerd ass nigga like me, and if it's up there, go check it out. It like froze, so then I just ended the stream. But I was having fun. There was a nigga in there watching by the time I cut it off. I was like, oh shit, my bad, my nigga. I ain't know somebody was in. I'm just sitting there playing the game, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? I fucks with Civilization. But yeah, I was on Twitch. So if you guys would like to follow your boy, head on over to twitch.tv/Babylon5. I told you niggas I was going to stream one of these days. I didn't. I just did audio, no video, because I just didn't feel like unplugging cords from here and then plugging that cord over there. I didn't feel like doing it. It's that simple. I just didn't feel like doing it. I don't know. Is it because this is my thing? How do I see what's on the screen until I go live, and then I see the stream on my phone? It pops up, and then I'm like, oh shit, this looks crazy. This shit looks crazy. You can only see my forehead and up type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I set it up while it's plugged in? That's the thing. I was like, I'm just annoyed by the awkwardness. I wanted to be ready to go, my nigga. I wanted to be ready to go if I'm gonna do it there with the video. That's why I'm not trying to fucking do it on my phone, because if I try to do it on my phone and then I'm planning to do plenty time at work, then I know it's probably not gonna come out until Wednesday. Shit, I'll be 33 by the time this shit comes out. By the time I put that video together. I'm not exaggerating. I turned 33. on Wednesday. So I just know that I won't have any time to work on video the next 2 days. It would have been just so much easier for my hard drive to pop up and I could just use OBS. It'd be so much easier. That's just not gonna be the case. If you guys would like to cop some merchandise, head on over to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. And lastly, don't just be my Niji, be my patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/BabbleOn5pod and you can be my patron today, if you so choose. Do it tomorrow. I don't know. Just fucking do it. Whenever you'd like. Whenever it's good for you. Unfortunate news for guys like me, man. I said, I was like, it's not been a good year for my guys, my James Krause A-team. And I was like, so judging how the year's going, it's not looking too good for Yuri Prochazka, who was scheduled to defend his belt against Glover Teixeira in 2 weeks here. It just came out that he has a really bad shoulder injury, which he has to get surgery, and they're estimating about a year of recovery. So Yuri Prochazka vacates the UFC light heavyweight championship. And his fight with Glover Teixeira is obviously off. But in a shocking turn of events, ladies and gentlemen, we get in the new main event, a fight is promoted to the main event, which was previously scheduled for 3 rounds. Now we get Magomed Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight championship. Now, when I saw this, I was like, what the hell is going on here? What about Glover? How does Glover just get X'd out of this fight? Didn't really make any sense to me. How is he just the odd man out here? But as the reports come out, it turns to be that Glover actually felt, well, so the UFC contacted Glover with what was going on with Yuri, and they offered him to fight against Magomed Ankalaev. Glover said, no, how about I fight Jan Blachowicz, who he beat for the belt. You know what I'm saying? He just recently beat Jan Blachowicz. So he's like, how about not fight this grapple heavy fucking either Chechnyan or Dagestani motherfucker. They're taking over. That's why we're calling this episode Takeover. Magomed Ankalaev and all them Shemaev, Medovs, Makhchevs, they're taking over, okay? They're taking over one weight class at a time. They're taking over. The UFC was not interested in Glover versus Jan 2, as that fight just recently happened. They were much more interested in the 40 Siam Glover Teixeira versus the young Magomed Ankalaev. And Glover says he's not just going to show up and fight, even though he was willing to just show up and fight Jan Blachowicz, who he's prepared for. But see, this is the whole thing right here. Clearly there's some concern with Ankalaev for him to be like, no, I'll show up and fight Blachowicz, but I'm not going to show up and fight Magomed Ankalaev. Like, let them niggas fight for the belt. I'm not showing up and fighting him for the belt. That's pretty interesting, because it's not like, that's a different fight for everybody. Jan versus Glover has to prepare completely different. If Jan fights Magomed, he has to train and prepare completely different. If Magomed is fighting Jan, the stand-up is more of the challenge there. If he's fighting Glover Teixeira, yeah, the stand-up is a thing, but he's got to worry about the great jiu-jitsu of Glover Teixeira. There's just different aspects there. It's a different fight for everybody in there. I don't agree with Glover just turning down in his 40s, turning down a championship fight. You're already in the championship fight. Your opponent gets hurt. They say we're going to change the opponent, but you're still in the championship fight, and you're like, nah, not that guy. I'll fight for the belt before, but if you give me somebody else and not that guy. That's pretty interesting, but now in 2 weeks, we will have Magomed Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz for the vacant light heavyweight championship. That's gonna be pretty hype, man. I hope Yuri is able to come back fast. Maybe he can get that USADA exemption, get out of that testing pool so he can take the proper vitamins and minerals so that he can come back faster, stronger than he was before. But no, in all seriousness, I wish the best to Yuri Prochazka. But as I was alluding to right there, Conor McGregor, who is in news, he keeps posting these videos, these photos. Over the course of a year since his last fight, this man seems to have put on about 80 pounds of muscle. This man's huge. He was saying he's 265. All right, weighing 265. Mind you, this guy usually fights 155 pounds. And he's saying he's weighing 265 pounds. He looks huge. Lots of people are calling him out and saying he's obviously on steroids. I remember I looked at a picture of him maybe a couple weeks back, maybe a month back. He posted a picture, and I didn't say anything, but in my mind I'm like, holy fuck, dude. And I show the picture to my wife, and before I show it to her, I was like, yo, is he on steroids? I showed it to my wife, and she was just like, hell yeah, that dude. He's fucking gigantic. He's put on, at least 80 pounds of muscle. And you got people like Alex Smith calling him out, saying how he's clearly on steroids to have been able to get the size that he's able to accumulate in such a short time. And Conor struck back with how these rats here in the UFC he said everything was disclosed with USADA, and that these rats would love to see him not heal properly and not be able to play with his children the same way again, is how Conor feels. Which at that point I was like, I can see where you're coming from there. And it's I know we want a clean fucking sport of everything, I guess, right? Is that the point? We want everybody to be clean. But I think, even when I was thinking about Michael Chandler talking about fish hooking people and punching people in the back of the head, and how you're allotted these fouls until you're told to correct. And at that point, you need to correct, or they can take a point. And I was like, damn, he's right. I need to change how I'm looking at this. So when I'm thinking about Conor saying, he's just trying to heal faster, he's trying to come back faster, heal properly. And yes, he's gained about 80 pounds of muscle. He doesn't seem to be denying the steroid use, but more so justifying it. And USADA tried to come out and say, no, we don't allow for any exemption. Well, they did say they allowed for exemptions. People tried to say, I saw the headlines, and they're claiming USADA says no exemptions. But USADA did exactly say that a fighter must be in the pool for 6 months. But they also said unless, like, there's certain exemptions in special cases. Like, AKA, this nigga Conor McGregor is a fucking owner. He's a minority owner of the fucking company. And they tried to... If nobody... There was a random nigga who just so happened to check and see who hadn't been fucking tested and then posted that Conor hadn't been tested. If that nigga didn't look that shit up, we probably wouldn't know that this nigga wasn't being tested. You know what I'm saying? If that wasn't public information and someone didn't happen to just curious at the size of this nigga. This guy's huge. His whole fucking chin's different, but my point is, I know steroids and all that in sports were like, you shouldn't do it, everybody should be clean, but should they? As fight fans, we all sit here and we reminisce on when Alistair Overeem was Alistair Ubereem. And I believe he just tested positive for... he just beat Bader Hari, and I believe he just tested positive for some shit. But I think they're contesting it. But I believe he suddenly started to look like Ubereem again, and then he tested positive. But were we not happy Ubereem was back? People talk about Vitor Belfort and his testosterone levels. This is things of legend. These are not... These are things of shame to a point, right? When I watch, if I hate steroids, if I hate people who've been caught using steroids, then I'm cheering for Jake Paul to knock out Anderson Silva, right? When Anderson Silva broke his leg, he came back pretty quick. They were like, damn, he's a specimen. He recovered so quickly from breaking his fucking leg. It snapped in half in the cage. We saw it. It's flopping around over there. He came back so fast. They're like, whoa, that spider, he's a fucking specimen. He fights, guess what? Pops for steroids. Pops for steroids. Kept fighting. There were people like, yo, no, let's boycott every fight he's doing. This man's on steroids. No. I mean, it would be mentioned occasionally, a little footnote here. But he went on pretty much to be Anderson Silva after that. All those guys who have tested for some funny business just went on to being them soon thereafter. So I think my point here, my whole stance on fighters using steroids is, my nigga, as if they can juke this system, take their steroids, but not test positive during competition, isn't that the only fucking thing that matters? It's like, what are these exemptions? The exemptions are when Brock Lesnar came back and hadn't been in the USADA pool for 6 months, and they were like, he could fight. And in the pre-fight drug test, he tested positive for estrogen blockers, and he was still allowed to fight. All right, these are those exemptions. These are those special cases, the high value ponies here. Conor McGregor, Brock Lesnar. There's not a higher value horse in this race than Conor McGregor. If anybody's going to get an exemption, I know USADA's like, hey man, they tried to kind of say, hey, we don't do that, but that's the start of that post. Right in the middle is, there are exceptions. All right? right in the middle there are exceptions. Conor's status is I gave everything to this game. All right. He says that he let them know what was going on. So I believe him. And I think shit, if he has to come back and fight at fucking 185 or some shit, how does he? There's no way if he's actually 265 as he's saying, there's no way that he can come back and fight at 155. That would be nuts. He's gigantic. He's absolutely gigantic. But as I said, as long as Conor can come back and test clean during competition, then it does not matter to me if he's on the juice, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what is juiced? You want to know what is juiced, ladies and gentlemen? Next week's fight card, UFC Fight Night, Kevin Holland versus Stephen Thompson. Alright. This fight card is fucking stacked, ladies and gentlemen. I was looking at this card, I was like, damn, this is like, there's some like fucking bangers all over here. I couldn't believe this is just a regular ass fight night. You got Tracy Cortez versus Amanda Ribas. Alright. Cortez is about to take all that Ribas hype, if there's any hype for Ribas left. What I found shocking here is that Cortez is taller than Ribas. I guess when I've seen them fight, Cortez has typically seemed like the smaller person every time I've seen her out there, and Ribas has seemed, I would say taller, the longer fighter, but she's got a half-inch reach advantage here, but a 2-inch height disadvantage. So that's interesting there, and I think Cortez clearly is going to dominate with the wrestling. Going with Cortez all day there. That's not the first fight of the night. There's 3 fights beforehand, and I'm not shitting on those fights. But once we get to this Tracy Cortez Amanda Ribas fight, this card really picks up. You got Darren Elkins versus Jonathan Pierce, potential banger there. You got Michael Johnson versus Mark DeCasey. That's a banger here. You got an old guy fight. Clay Guida versus Scott Holtzman. All right. Clay Guida 40. All right. No, actually, shit. When is his birthday? It says 40 years, 11 months, 3 weeks, 4 days. I think he'll be 41 by the time this fight happens. Yeah, he'll be 41 by the time this fight happens. Scott Holtzman, 39. Got an old guy fight happening. But it could be a banger. Personal favorite of mine, Angela Overkill Hill versus Emily Ducote. I'm staying away from this card on my DraftKings roster. I see that everybody on Tapology, 65% of the votes are going with Ducote here. And as a big fan of Angela Hill, I gotta stay away from that because my heart is always gonna make me pick Angela Hill every fight that she does. So I gotta stay away from that fight on my card. It's really interesting though because Ducote just fought. Her last win was against Penne, who is a training partner of Angela Hill. It was a unanimous decision, but that's pretty interesting here that she's fighting back-to-back training partners here, which could maybe, it's definitely an advantage or a disadvantage, I would imagine that Angela was probably the lead training partner for Penne for this fight. leading up with Ducote, I would imagine. But you got Angela Hill who's 37, Ducote, who is 28. All right. 28. Yeah, I'm hoping Angie can get it done. Like, it just gets pretty good from Cortez on. As I said, you got Nico Price versus Phil Rowe. Looks like fucking banger right there. Eric your boy Anders versus Kyle Dawkins. Definitely rolling with Dawkins in that bad boy. Jack Hermanson versus Roman Dolidze. Definitely going with Dolidze in that one. I think Dolidze, I don't think he fights too much, but he's not the most active. Let's see. This year he's fought twice this year. Oh, I'm tripping. So, like, no, okay. He fought twice in 2021. Losing to Trevin Giles in March. Nah, he's better than that. He's better than that. I fucks with Roman Dolidze. I think he overwhelms Hermanson. Hermanson can let it get away from him pretty early. If he doesn't get his grappling going, sometimes. I mean, we did see. Now that I think about it, getting real stuffy. We did just see, if I believe, Jack Hermanson just fought Chris Curtis, right? Yeah, and he just kind of like stayed away from him. Curtis tried to just come over and come and engage, and he just kept at a distance and point fight. Which could be something you see here, but I mean, Dolidze is the taller fighter, but he does have the reach disadvantage by an inch and a half. This could be pretty interesting. But I'm going with the Caucasian Roman Dolidze. They're both Caucasians in my book. I'm just going with the 11-1 Dolidze. I'm not basing that off his record. I just base it off of that. I fucking watch all these fights. And as I'm saying, Hermanson, in the past, before the Chris Curtis fight, he's been, like, he'll get overwhelmed from time to time. And you got Dolidze, who's got first round stoppage over Phil Hawes, his last fight. First round stoppage over Kyle Dawkins, the fight before that. You know what I'm saying? He's got some first round stoppages here. Jack Hermanson, prior to the Chris Curtis fight, had lost to Sean Strickland, which I feel like is a fight he could win. He beat Shabazian, which I feel like he should have. Lost to Vettori, which, you know, I think that fight's 50-50. That's when he was scratching Vettori. And Vettori was like, he's scratching me with his nails. Heel hooked Kelvin Gastelum in the first round. I like Hermanson. He's 50-50 guy to me for it, though. He's pretty talented. If he could really just start early, hone it in, and just be a problem, I think he'd be a problem for everybody here, but I'm going with the Caucasian in this one. Then you got Tai Tuivasa versus Sergey Pavlovich. All right, how is this not a fight night main event? This is crazy here. Tai versus Sergey Pavlovich. If I'm correct here, yeah, Sergey Pavlovich is the favorite in this one. I mean, he's got the 1-inch height advantage, but he's got a 9-inch reach advantage. That's crazy. And he's got a lot of knockout power. He's known for his stoppages. But we also know that Tai Tuivasa is known for his stoppages. He was on a 6-fight win streak up until he unfortunately signed that contract to fight Ciryl Gane. And y'all heard me here say this boy was going to touch Tai Tuivasa up. And what did he do? Touched that nigga up. Exactly as described. All right. Y'all called it Fight of the Year. And it's only because Gane wanted to, make the fight seem more interesting. And then the second he got touched by Tai, he was like, yeah, this is done. We're not doing this no more. This fight is done. But my point is Tai is a tough outing for most guys here. And the Sergey Pavlovich fight could be pretty tough for most people. I felt like it was an early stoppage between Sergey Pavlovich and Derek Lewis in that last fight. I felt like Derek Lewis was putting Tai Tuivasa in some bad situations in that fight before Tai was ultimately able to finish him. And that's going to be a tough fight there. That's going to be a tough fight. If Tai dinks him, he could 1,000% sink him. So that's a sleeper fight right there. I can't believe that fight is on this card. You got Matheus Nicolau versus Matt Schnell, man. That's a great fight right there. That could be a fight night main event. One that people would complain about, be like, these are no name, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, they're no names to you because you don't fucking watch the sport. You just wait for Conor to show up. You know what I'm saying? You just wait for Izzy, the big names. What about Matheus Nicolau? How do you know who the fuck he is if you ain't watch? Anywho, that's going to be a banger fight. You got RDA versus Brian Barberena in the co-main event. That's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty one-sided, actually. I think Dos Anjos is going to dominate Barberena. But I think it looks exciting on paper. It looks like you got people who are going to slug it out. You got, Dos Anjos, who was able to stop Anthony Pettis in the way that he was with the striking. Or not, stop him, but just, really fuck him up with the striking. Just, I think that lives in a lot of the real fans' minds. But what we do know about RDA is he definitely is going to utilize that grappling. He's going to utilize that wrestling. And Brian Barberena has been known to have porous takedown defense at best. Porous takedown defense. So I feel like that will be a pretty one-sided affair between RDA and Brian Barberena. Yeah, it'll be a pretty one-sided affair in my opinion. I'd love to be proven wrong. But in the co-main event, man, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Kevin Holland. Now, they just did that podcast, and that was pretty cool. They're talking about hanging out afterwards. Hopefully, a fight breaks out so they can both be superheroes and save the day type of situation. I like that they're being friendly beforehand. It's even. I'm looking at these betting odds according to Tapology, and both fighters are negative 110, so it's a pick'em fight. They got it 50-50. Now, Stephen Thompson is 39 years old, all right? 39 years old. Kevin Holland, 30. Kevin Holland has the 3-inch height advantage. Kevin Holland has the 6-inch reach advantage. I believe Kevin Holland will be faster in there, stronger. I think he much better utilizes his jiu-jitsu in the octagon. I think he's gonna touch Wonderboy up, and it's gonna look like. I think it could potentially look like, yep, I think it's time for Wonderboy to wrap it up. I think it's time for Stephen Thompson to retire. I think that's what we might see here. Thompson is on a 2-fight losing streak, having lost to Bilal, who looked amazing in his last fight. You guys been doubting Bilal. And losing to Gilbert Burns, he beat Jeff Neal, who you guys are putting on a fucking pedestal right now. But I say, pump the brakes. I think Jeff's fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov. All right, pump the brakes on Jeff Neal. If he can beat Shavkat Rakhmonov, then I'll be like, oh, that's that nigga. He need to give him a title shot next, because he just beat Shavkat. But until somebody, nah, pump the brakes. He's got to get through Shavkat Rakhmonov. They're taking over. If they got a Manov, Shemaev, Makhachev, they're taking over. Shavkat Rakhmonov is here. All right, they're taking over. He beat Vicente Luque, who Luque has kind of fallen on bad times as of late. He lost to both Jeff Neal and Bilal Muhammad. And that's when he lost to Jeff Neal, that's when they're like, oh shit, maybe Luque really fell off. But I think honestly, maybe that's right, because I'm saying we need to pump the brakes on Jeff Neal. He was knocked out. Wonderboy was knocked out by Anthony Pettis in a fight that people were like, well, he was winning that fight. Yeah, but he got knocked out cold, body stiff, unconscious on the ground, woken up with smelling salts. Like, he was knocked out unconscious. Wasn't a lucky punch. Nigga did a Superman punch from the you know what I'm saying? Like, off the cage, Superman punch, Anthony Showtime Pettis. That's what happened. He got knocked out cold. And I think the slicker striker here in Kevin Holland, who is coming off a loss to Khamzat Chimaev. He's here, ladies and gentlemen. They're taking over. He's here. With his loss to Khamzat Chimaev, which he shouldn't have did that. He was originally scheduled to fight Daniel Rodriguez, which was a much more winnable fight for him. But he, through some shenanigans that happened backstage, if you guys don't know, fights here, yada, yada, yada. Khamzat Chimaev didn't make weight to fight Nate Diaz, so they switched this shit around, and he got annihilated by Khamzat. I don't think he landed one punch, but he should have never agreed to that fight. Should have never agreed to that fight. But I think this will be a great bounce back fight for him, being Kevin Holland. I think he's the much younger guy, almost 10 years younger than Stephen Thompson. We have all the respect for the nicest motherfucker and Stephen Thompson, but I think this is going to be the one where we're like, yep, it's time for Wonderboy to hang it up. He's number 7 as far as what it says on Tapology right now. It says he's number 7. And I mean, you can keep on getting them checks. Robbie Lawler's doing it. He's probably getting like at least $250,000 a show, and another $250 if he wins. So like, my nigga, keep getting them checks if you can. But I think Thompson is pretty much on his way out. I think Kevin Holland is gonna get the victory in here, ladies and gentlemen. And if you guys would like to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. You guys can email this podcast at Babylon5podcast@gmail.com. If you guys would like to hit that like button anywhere you're listening to this podcast, if you've made it thus far, I appreciate it so much. If you guys would like to follow your boy on Twitch, head on over to twitch.tv/Babylon5. And if you guys would like to cop some merchandise, head on over to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. And lastly, don't just be my niche, be my patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/Babylon5Pod, and you can be my patrons today. Come on, be my patrons tonight. Anywho, Yeah, this is episode 171. Takeover. They're fucking taking over. All right? Everybody from that whole Russian area, Dagestan, Chechnya, wherever the fuck Shavkat Rachmanov is from, they're taking over. All right? They're fucking taking over. Not necessarily one weight class at a time. Because Shavkat and Hamzat are chirping at each other. You know what I'm saying? And I damn near think Shavkat is bigger than No, he's not. He's 6'1". Shavkat 6'1", and he is from Kazakhstan. Shavkat is from Kazakhstan. They're taking over. Yep, Sambo. He's a Sambo guy. All these Sambo niggas is taking over. All them niggas from that whole area, that whole Baltic fucking area, they taking over. All right, Shavkat Rachmanov, Hamzat Shemaev, Islam Makhachev. They're taking over. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you're taking care of yourselves and each other. And I will see you when I see you. I'll holla.
Chant down Babylon kingdom. Team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling bling chant down Babylon kingdom. Team make we chant down Vatican now. Chant down Babylon kingdom. Team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling bling chant down Babylon kingdom. Team make we chant down Vatican now.